The trap in the stars above Sector 9 looked calm. But below that peaceful sky, something deadly waited. A group of alien ships, called the Volari fleet, was hiding inside a shattered asteroid belt. The Volari were peaceful traders and explorers, not warriors. They had only come to this system to resupply. But now, they were trapped. Surrounding them from all sides was a group known across the galaxy as the Hunters. No one knew where the Hunters came from. They were not a species. They were a business. They hunted ships. They hunted people. And they never left survivors. Inside the lead Volari ship, Captain Rallo gripped the sides of his command chair. He was old, his skin pale and his eyes full of fear. All around him, his crew tried to stay calm. But they knew what was coming. The Hunters had jammed all signals. No one could call for help. No one was coming. They'll strike soon, said one of the crew, a younger Volari named Lo. They always wait for a full circle orbit. That's only 4 hours from now. Rallo nodded. And no way to run. The Hunters had placed mines all through the outer belt. Any escape route would lead to fire. The Volari ships had no heavy weapons. Only weak shields. Even their engines were too slow to outrun Hunter craft. The only thing they could do now was wait. But just as hope began to die, something strange happened. A single ship appeared. It was not part of the Volari fleet, and it was not a Hunter ship either. It was small, old, covered in dark grey plating and strange marks on the hull. What is that? Asked Lo, leaning forward. That's not from any known sector. The computer scanned it and failed to match it to any alien database. Rallo's eyes narrowed. Open visual. The screen changed. The unknown ship hovered in the distance, silent, almost peaceful. Then it moved. It didn't move like other ships. It glided fast, almost too fast to follow. It slipped between two Hunter scout ships without being seen. Then it stopped again. Hidden in the shadows of a spinning rock, they didn't detect it. Lo whispered. Rallo said nothing. He was watching too closely to speak. Then the small ship turned and a message came through. It broke through the jamming signal. Clear. Strong. It was a voice. Calm. Deep. This is Commander Blake. Human vessel. You're not alone. The bridge fell silent. Human? Lo asked. I thought humans didn't come this far. They don't, Rallo said. They are from a death world. Too dangerous. Too far. They don't interfere. But one is here. The screen changed again. A short video clip played. It was from the human ship's camera. It showed the Hunter fleet. Marked targets. Paths, attack lines, and then a full strike plan. The message continued. I've been tracking these Hunters for months. You've got 3 hours left. That's enough. I'll get you out. But you have to trust me. Everyone on the bridge stared at each other. Was this real? A human? Here, Rallo didn't waste time. Send him our full ship layout. Let's see if this human knows what he's doing. Lo hesitated. You're going to trust him? Right now, Rallo said, he's the only one trying to help us. Outside, the Hunters continued to wait, but now, the Hunted had hope, and in the shadows of the rocks, one human ship powered up weapons no one had ever seen before. The humans planned the bridge of the Volari command ship was quiet, but not because of fear now. It was quiet because everyone was listening to the human named Blake. His voice came clearly over the speakers. He spoke slowly, with confidence. I've seen these Hunters operate before. They think you're soft. Easy. But they've made a mistake. They don't know what I've brought. Captain Rallo leaned forward. What exactly have you brought, human? Something they've never faced before, Blake answered. Let me show you. A new screen opened. A layout of the asteroid belt appeared. Red dots marked every known Hunter ship. Blue dots showed the Volari ships. But then, a new set of markers appeared. Green meant weapons. Hidden weapons. They've placed trip mines near the edge, said Lo. We knew that. Not just trip mines, Blake said. They've also set up trap drones. But they have blind spots. I've mapped them. If you follow my route, I can lead 5 of your ships out before they react. And the rest of us? Rallo asked. I'll take care of that. Your job is to be ready to move on my signal. Lo looked nervous. We don't have weapons. You won't need weapons, Blake said. Just timing. Outside, the small human ship moved again. It was called Nightwind, a sleek, black vessel with no flags, no colors. Its engines made no noise, and it seemed to slide between asteroids like a shadow. The hunters still didn't see it. Inside Nightwind, Blake worked quickly. His face was calm, but his hands moved fast across the control panels. Dozens of lines of data ran across his screen. He had been preparing for this moment a long time. He activated a system called PulseNet. It was illegal in half the galaxy. A hidden web of microdrones shot from Nightwind and latched onto nearby rocks and debris. Each one had a sensor jammer. Slowly, they built a fake image, an illusion. To the hunter ships, the Volaro fleet now looked like it hadn't moved, but 5 ships were already starting to slide behind cover. Back on the Volaro bridge, Captain Rallo gave the order. Move the lower 5 ships, now. Stay close to the shadows. Lo sent the command, and the 5 ships began to drift. Make it slow, Blake's voice warned. Too fast and they'll spot the distortion. The 5 Volari ships glided quietly through the asteroid belt. Blake's fake signal field kept them hidden. The hunters, focused on the larger signal, didn't even blink. Blake watched their motion carefully. Then he did something bold. He fired point 1 beam, silent, blue, and precise, fired from Nightwind's hidden railgun. It didn't aim at a ship. It hit a small hunter mine, placed near one of their own scouts. The mine exploded. An alert went off. Inside the hunter fleet, one of their scouts turned toward the blast. Then the human's voice echoed again. That's it. They are distracted. Move the next 3 ships. Back on the Volari bridge, Rallo looked stunned. He's not just hiding us, he's playing with them. Blake, Rallo said into the comms, why are you doing this? What do you want? There was a pause, then the human answered, because once, a Volari ship saved a human escape pod of mine. I owe them. And I always repay my debts. Rallo's eyes widened. Outside, another flash lit the belt. Blake used one of the hunters' own drones against them. He hacked it and sent it spinning into another mine. More confusion. The hunters thought someone inside their own group was sabotaging them. Blake smiled to himself. That should buy us 20 more minutes. Back on the Volari side, the hidden ships kept moving. They were halfway through the belt now, but then something changed. A new ship entered the system. It was bigger than the rest. Black and red, shaped like a spear. Lo gasped. That's a hunter command ship. Rallo stood up. They brought the executioner. Even Blake's voice paused. Well, looks like they are taking this personally. The Volaro fleet froze. The executioner-class ship had only been seen a few times before. Each time, it destroyed everything in its path, but Blake wasn't afraid. Let them come, he said quietly. It's time they met a human weapon. Asterisk. The executioner arrives. The black and red ship loomed like a monster from an old nightmare. It drifted into the asteroid field with cold, silent power. Its shape cut through space like a blade. This was no scout ship. This was a warship, a hunter. Executioner, the bridge of the Volari command ship grew tense. Shields won't help, whispered Lo. Not against that. Captain Rallo stared at the giant ship on the screen. The rest of the hunters were dangerous, yes. But this one ended battles. It has a gravity cannon, Lo added. They used it to crush a moon last year. Rallo nodded. I've seen the footage. In the shadows, the human ship Nightwind didn't move. Inside, Blake studied the new arrival. His eyes locked on the command ship's energy readings. Its core was already heating up. That meant it was preparing to fire. They're going to fire on the main cluster, Blake said. They know you can't run. He tapped a few keys and leaned closer to his screen. Fine. Let's give them a better target. He shut off his ship's cloak. For the first time, Nightwind became visible. The hunters noticed immediately. Alarms lit up across their fleet. scouts turned toward the human ship. But before they could react, Blake launched his first strike. A series of small pods flew from the underside of Nightwind. They weren't missiles. They were chaff drones, packed with heat and light emitters. They scattered into the rocks, each one glowing like a warhead. The hunter fleet locked onto them. Their targeting systems read them as bombs. They fired. Dozens of blasts filled the asteroid field. Explosions shook space, but when the dust cleared, there was nothing. Just empty rocks. The real human ship had already moved. Blake had slipped behind the executioner. I only get one shot at this, he muttered. Back on the Volare bridge, Rallo was shocked. He drew their fire. Lowe's hands were shaking. He's buying us time to move more ships. Should we? Yes. Rallo snapped. Move the next 4. Now. The remaining Volare ships began their escape, following the same hidden path as before. The signal jammers continued to trick the hunters. They still thought the full fleet was sitting still in the middle of the field, but the executioner wasn't so easily fooled. It turned slowly. Its massive hull groaned as it locked onto Nightwind. Blake, Rallo called over the comms, you need to run. That thing is targeting you. I know, Blake replied calmly. Then what are you doing? Getting ready to end this. Inside Nightwind, a red button flashed on Blake's screen. He didn't touch it yet. Instead, he opened a small glass case beside his seat. Inside was a small cube, glowing faintly blue. A prototype. Human-made. Illegal. Unstable. It was called a zero-core pulse. No one had ever tested it near a ship this size before. Blake connected the cube to Nightwind's reactor. Alarms blared across the ship's systems. Energy overload warning, the computer said. Eject core immediately. Blake ignored it. He looked straight at the camera and spoke to the Volare bridge. This is your only chance. When I fire, run. All of you. Rallo's voice came through, full of fear. You won't survive that. Blake smiled. Wasn't planning to. The executioner ship charged its gravity cannon. The front of the ship opened, revealing a deep blue swirl of compressed mass energy. One shot from that weapon could crush an entire fleet. It locked onto Nightwind, but Nightwind fired first. The zero-core pulse launched like a silent beam. It didn't explode at first. It didn't even make a sound, but then, space twisted, the gravity around the executioner began to fold inwards. Metal bent. Shields cracked. Inside, Hunter crew members screamed as their ship buckled like paper under pressure. Then the pulse detonated. A silent flash filled the belt, pure white light. It didn't just destroy. It erased. The executioner ship vanished. Gone. No wreckage. No fire. Just a nothing. Silence followed. Then the Volare command screen flickered back to life. Blake's face appeared, bruised and blooded. His ship was damaged. Badly, but still there now, he whispered. Get out. Go. Rallo gave the order. The remaining Volare ships shot forward, leaving the trap behind. The path was clear. The hunters were blind. And the executioner was no more. As the fleet moved to safety, Lowe looked at the screen one last time. Is he going to make it? Rallo's voice was quiet. I don't know. The fight isn't over. The Volare ships flew through the belt fast. Now. The hidden path made by Blake was still holding. The signal field kept them masked. But even with the executioner destroyed, danger still remained. The hunters were angry. They had lost their biggest weapon. Their fleet was still large, dozens of ships. And now they knew something was wrong. The trap had failed. Their easy target was slipping away. On the bridge of the Volare lead ship, Captain Rallo watched as his fleet moved ahead. So far, none of the escaping ships had been hit. But they were not safe yet. Status on the human, he asked. Lowe scanned the channel. His ship is badly damaged. Engines are down. Weapons too. He's drifting. Rallo's eyes narrowed. Then. He won't survive the next wave. They watched as the hunter ships began to shift. 6 scouts and 3 cruisers turned away from the false signal field. They had spotted Nightwind now, broken and alone. They are going after him, Lowe said, panic in his voice. He saved us and now they'll destroy him. Rallo didn't wait. He stood up. Send a message to all remaining ships. Reverse course. Lo stared. Sir? You want to turn back? Yes, Rallo said firmly. The human risked everything to save us. If we leave him now, we are no better than the hunters. But we have no weapons. Rallo looked straight at Lo. Then we'll find another way. For a way, Blake sat inside the flickering command center of Nightwind. Smoke filled the air. Sparks dropped from broken panels. Blood ran down his forehead, but he didn't wipe it away. The ship's air repeated warnings over and over. Critical damage. Life support at 40%. Weapons offline. Escape pod unusable. He knew the hunters were coming. On the screen, he saw them approaching, like wolves around a dying deer. They were not in a rush. They wanted him to see it coming. Blake leaned back and smiled. Of course they are coming. I heard them. He reached under his chair and pulled out one last device. A square box, black, with blinking lights. It was old tech. Human design. He called it the Spike. He opened the interface and began coding. It was a virus. One made for space fleets. He had planned to use it later. On a major battle. But now, he had no time. They are getting close, he said quietly. The hunters moved into range. They didn't fire yet. They wanted to watch him burn. Blake finished the upload. The spike glowed, then he launched it. A single burst, like a beacon, shot from Nightwind toward the lead hunter cruiser. At first, nothing happened, then chaos. The cruiser's systems began to fail. Lights went out. Engines died. Its weapons turned off, then the virus spread. 2 more ships stopped moving. The rest backed away, confused. Their own sensors were going blind. Inside Nightwind, Blake coughed hard. He knew the virus wouldn't last. Just a few minutes of confusion, but sometimes, that's all that's needed. Back in the asteroid field, the Volare ships had turned. Captain Rallo gave the order. Full power. Spread formation. We are going in. The Volare ships had no real weapons, but they had mining tools, emergency lasers, and tractor beams. They aimed them now at rocks. Gigantic floating boulders began to move. The Volare fleet used their tractor beams to throw asteroids toward the enemy. It was a desperate plan, but it worked. 1 rock slammed into a hunter scout, smashing its wing. Another clipped a cruiser, breaking its shields. Lo shouted, they are confused. The human's virus must have worked. Rallo nodded. Push forward. Shield the human ship. The Volare ships formed a wall between Nightwind and the hunters. More rocks flew. Sparks danced in space. Then, the lead Volare ship clamped onto Nightwind with a tow beam. We've got him. Lo shouted. We are pulling him out. Blake's voice came through, weak but clear. Didn't think anyone would come back. Rallo smiled. You're part of our fleet now. Behind them, the hunters tried to regroup, but the virus had done its job. Half their fleet was blind. Their command structure was broken. They didn't know who to shoot, and the Volare were no longer running. They were fighting back, using teamwork, using shadows, using human tricks. They were winning. Slowly, the hunters began to retreat. For the first time in history, the Volare had survived an ambush by the galaxy's worst killers, and it was because of one man. 1 human. Asterisk. The human's name echoed. The battle was ending. The hunter ships were pulling back, their lines broken. Half of them floated dead in space, systems fried by the human virus. The rest couldn't agree who was in charge. Their famous unity had crumbled. The Volare fleet floated in the middle of the wreckage, tired but alive. On the lead ship, Captain Rallo sat quietly in his chair, watching the screen. It still showed the human vessel Nightwind, now being towed by one of their ships. Sparks still flickered across its hull, but it held together. How is he? Rallo asked. Lo turned from the monitor. Alive. Barely. He's lost a lot of blood. Ship AI says his heart almost stopped. Rallo stood up. I want to speak with him. Lo hesitated. He may not respond. Try. Lo tapped a few buttons. The comm screen blinked to life. At first, there was only static, then Blake's voice came through, faint, broken, but calm. Captain. Rallo leaned forward. You should be dead. Blake gave a tired laugh. I was close. You saved us. We all owe you our lives. Blake didn't reply for a moment. Then, softly, he said, You saved mine once. Long ago. One of your ships found my escape pod drifting near a black star. They didn't even know if I was human, but they brought me aboard. Gave me food. Fixed my wounds. No questions. Lowe's mouth dropped open. That was 15 years ago. I know, Blake said. But I remember. Rallo's voice grew. Warm. You remembered a kindness few would. Blake's voice faded a little. I'm not a soldier, Captain. I just couldn't forget. Then silence. Lowe looked at Rallo. He passed out. Rallo nodded. Get a medical team on his ship. Keep him alive. Hours later, the Volare ships moved beyond the asteroid belt. They entered deep space again, free at last. The fleet had changed. They were no longer seen as weak traders, they were survivors, and they had a story that would spread fast across the galaxy, the story of the hunters defeated, the story of a single human who turned the tide. On a nearby Volare station, news spread like fire. He fought the executioner ship alone. His name's Blake. No. One man did that. Yes. A human. From Earth. The word a human used to bring fear. Stories of their wild worlds. Their violence. Their unpredictable ways. Death welders, they were called, but now, the meaning was shifting. Now, when someone said human, they thought of something else: courage, loyalty, sacrifice. A week passed. Blake lay on a medical bed inside the Volare station's healing center. His body was weak, but the machines kept him alive. Around him, Volare doctors worked quietly. No one asked him for payment. No one questioned why he came. They treated him like one of their own. One night, Rallo came to visit. He sat beside the bed and spoke softly. I've told your story to the High Council. They are afraid. Afraid of what the hunters will do next. But they are also hopeful. Blake didn't open his eyes, but his lips moved. They should be. Rallo chuckled. You're not done yet, are you? No, Blake whispered. I think this was only the beginning. Rallo placed a hand on the human's shoulder. Then rest. When you wake, we'll need your help again. Elsewhere in the galaxy, things began to change. The hunters, embarrassed and furious, pulled back their scouts from 3 systems. They began building new defenses. But for the first time, fear entered their ranks. They had seen what one human could do, and they wondered how many more were out there. At the same time, Earth received a message encrypted. Ancient code. From the outer IM.IT read, first contact with Volare successful. Objective complete. Hunters engaged. Mission status, victory. Request pickup. Or further orders. Commander Blake, Nightwind back at the Volare station. Blake's eyes opened for the first time in 3 days. He sat up slowly. A nurse rushed over, surprised. You should rest. But Blake smiled. I've rested enough. He looked out the window. The stars were waiting. Echoes of fear. The stars above Volare station glowed peacefully. But across the galaxy, storm clouds were gathering. The hunters had lost. Not just a battle, but something more dangerous, their control. 4 years, they ruled the deep roots of space through fear. No one challenged them. No one escaped them. But now, a single human had done both. The hunters wanted revenge. Inside their dark command halls, leaders watched recordings of the battle. They studied Blake's ship, his tactics, and his virus. They spoke in sharp tones, angry and afraid. He used old tech, human-made. One ship disabled a command-class cruiser. He tricked our entire fleet. The High Hunter hissed. This cannot be allowed. The galaxy must still fear us. But fear was already fading. Back on Volare station, Blake walked slowly through the medical wing. His body still ached, but each step grew stronger. Captain Rallo met him near the docking bay. You're leaving. Blake nodded. Earth answered my message. A retrieval ship is coming. Lo ran up, eyes wide. Are all humans like you? Blake laughed softly. No. Some are smarter. Some are stronger. But most won't run from a fight when it matters. Rallo's face turned serious. Then we must ask, will Earth help us again? Blake didn't answer at first. He looked out the window. When Earth hears what the hunters tried to do, they won't ignore it. Rallo smiled. Good. But I have a warning, Blake added. The hunters will strike again. Harder. They don't lose without striking back. Rallo nodded. We are preparing. Prepare more, Blake said. This time, they'll bring more than warships. They'll bring assassins. Saboteurs. Lies. Lo looked worried. What do we do? Blake met his eyes. You change how they see you. Don't just survive. Be a threat. Rallo's smile returned. That sounds very human. 2 days later, a new ship arrived, sleek, dark silver, shaped like a falcon. It bore no flag but sent a signal Earth would recognize. Code 9, Deathworld Protocol.it. Docked silently, Blake boarded. Before the door closed, Rallo stepped forward. One more thing. Blake turned. We have started building new ships. Faster. Stronger. Based on the design of Nightwind. We'll call them Guardian class. Blake raised a brow. You're copying human tech. No, Rallo said. We are learning from it. Blake nodded slowly. Then I'll see you again. He disappeared inside the ship, and moments later, the vessel shot off into deep space, heading back to human-controlled regions. Meanwhile, in other parts of the galaxy, something strange began to happen. Other races, small ones, peaceful ones, started whispering about the Volari. They defeated the hunters with help from Earth. The word spread fast. And with every retelling, the story grew. Now, humans were not just a rumor. Not just Deathworlders, they were legends. The hunters heard the whispers too. And they hated it. They called a gathering of their elite captains. In a cold room carved from an asteroid core, a tall figure stepped forward. She wore a black mask. Her armor was scarred from many battles. The humans have made a move, she said. It is our turn now. What is your plan? One asked. The masked figure lifted her head. Find him. The one called Blake. And end him. Back on Earth. Inside a secret facility deep under the Atlantic Ocean, Blake stepped off the Falcon-class retrieval ship. A tall officer saluted. Welcome back, Commander. Your file's been updated. Blake looked around. What's changed? The officer handed him a data pad. Everything. The Council wants full reports. The galaxy now knows Earth is watching. And we've received over 40 requests for aid in just the last week. Blake chuckled. That's what happens when you rescue someone. The officer leaned closer. There's more. One of the hunter captains has been spotted near the outer colonies. She's looking for you. Blake's smile faded. Let her come, he said. I'll be ready. Asterisk. The legend begins. The stars were quiet, but the galaxy was not. Across trade lanes, hidden channels, and deep space stations, one name kept spreading. Blake, the human who broke the hunter trap, saved the Volari fleet, and destroyed an executioner class ship. He had done what no alien dared, and now, others were watching. In the core worlds of Earth, Blake stood before the Human Defense Council. 10 leaders sat in a circle, each one wearing a dark uniform marked with gold lines. Earth's highest military authority. You disobeyed orders, one said. You entered hunter space alone, said another. You used restricted tech, added a third. Blake nodded. Yes. And still, the first voice said slowly, you brought the Volari fleet home. You made them allies. You gave Earth something we've never had before. Blake stood tall. Respect. The council chamber fell silent, then the lead councillor spoke. From this day on, we authorize full contact with the Volari species. Trade, defense, research, all open. And what about the hunters? Blake asked. They've gone quiet, another councillor said. But not forever. They'll be back, Blake warned. And not just for Volari. Next time, they'll target Earth. The counselor looked him in the eye. Then we must be ready. Meanwhile, on the Volari homeworld, something new had begun. Young Volari students now studied human history. Engineers redesigned ships, adding armor plating and stealth systems like those on Nightwind, and every child knew Blake's name. They called him the Starbreaker. They painted his face on murals, and their leaders no longer whispered in fear. They spoke with fire in their voice. "We are not prey," said Rallo, now head of Volari Defense. "We stand beside Earth." For across space, deep in a cold nebula, the hunters were preparing. Their new leader stood at the head of a black ship, sharper than any before. Her name was Lareth. She had studied the battle. She had watched the footage, and she had chosen one target. "Hunt Blake," she told her crew. "He is the spark. End him, and the flame dies." They began building new weapons, new viruses, and for the first time in years, they feared they were not the most dangerous ones in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Blake sat in a quiet hangar, looking at what remained of Nightwind. Its hull was cracked, its core was burned, but it was being rebuilt, stronger, faster, and smarter. Earth had approved it as a prototype, Nightwind Mk2, first of the new Vanguard class. Lowe's voice echoed from the side. "He had arrived from the Volari capital just a day ago. You kept it." Blake smiled. "She saved my life more than once." Lowe looked around in awe. "They said Earth would send a fleet. But they sent you." Blake stood. "Sometimes one is enough." Lowe held out a small badge, Volara made, shaped like a star split in half. "It's a sign of honor," he said. "Only given to those who fight with no promise of return." Blake took it with quiet pride. "No return, he said. "I guess I messed up." Lowe grinned. "You came back. That's what made it matter." As the Nightwind Mk2 was completed, word spread across the stars. Smaller species began reaching out to Earth. They asked for alliances, they asked for guidance, but most of all, they asked for hope, because they now believed something new. If one human could do so much, what would happen when an entire fleet answered? And so, the balance of power shifted, not through a war, not through conquest, but through courage. One man had stepped into the darkest trap in the galaxy and made the stars believe again. Asterisk.